Hello there, and welcome back to Non-Name Talks.
It's great to be here. What if I told you that the difference between having high amounts of good cholesterol and high amounts of bad cholesterol wasn't just about, I don't know, how much kale you eat
Right.
or like how many miles you run on the treadmill, but
Or,
rather the specific way you process a really bad day at the office?
I mean, it sounds almost like science fiction, right? Or maybe just incredibly wishful thinking. We are so conditioned to separate the physical body from that internal narrative running through our
We
minds.
really are. Well, welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is to unpack a massive stack of sources for you.
Oh yeah, it's a huge stack today.
Yeah, we've pulled together university psychology research, medical hospital guidelines, clinical trial data, and even workplace wellness metrics. Our goal, to decode the true science of positive thinking.
And I think we should promise you, the listener, right up front, this is not going to be some fluffy, cliche motivational seminar.
Absolutely not. No, just smile more advice here.
Far from it. We are bypassing all that typical advice and looking directly at the hard data. We're talking about how an optimistic mindset literally alters your lipid profiles, physically rewires your brain chemistry.
Which is wild.
It is. And how it fast-tracks your professional career based on, measurable biological responses.
But before we can get to how optimism physically upgrades your body, we really have to deal with some evolutionary baggage. Because, based on the literature, human beings are actually biologically wired to be negative. Like, it's in our DNA.
We are. It's known in the research as the negativity bias. If you think about our ancestors foraging on the savannah, survival depended entirely on risk assessment.
Right, looking out for threats.
Exactly. The brain that remembered the exact location of the dangerous tiger survived and passed on its genes.
Yeah.
The brain that only focused on how beautiful the sunset looked, that guy got eaten.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if our brains are built to constantly scan for threats, then trying to be positive almost feels like we are, I don't know, fighting our own hardware.
You're not wrong, yeah.
And honestly, I feel like the traditional view of positivity often slips into this dangerous territory. What we now call toxic positivity.
Oh, definitely.
It's this idea of sitting in a room that is actively on fire, putting on a smile, and just pretending the burning building is comfortably warm.
Yeah.
Doesn't trying to force optimism mean we are just ignoring reality?
That is exactly what the clinical research warns us to avoid. True positive thinking, at least according to the psychological literature we've reviewed, is actually about holding a neutral, highly balanced view of your environment.
Okay.
It is absolutely not about ignoring reality or suppressing genuine pain or fear.
So you still see the fire.
You definitely see the fire, but instead of the fire triggering a state of complete emotional paralysis or hopeless panic, positive thinking acts as an active coping mechanism.
Right.
It is about looking at that obstacle, a real tangible obstacle, and asking, what can I learn from this? Or where are the escape routes?
I see.
It's this grounded belief that while things might be incredibly difficult right now, you have the personal agency to help bring about an improvement.
So it's not passive ignorance at all. It's active problem solving, rooted in the belief that the problem is actually solvable.
Precisely. It's about resilience, really. Toxic positivity demands that you feel good all the time, which is impossible. True positive thinking demands that you remain adaptable, regardless of how you feel.
Man, that's a crucial distinction. And if we accept that this kind of grounded, active positivity is a tool, I want to look at how that mental tool physically alters the human body. Because the data in our stack is just mind-blowing.
It really is.
Let's look at that 2013 Harvard Medical University study, the one published in the American Journal of Cardiology.
Oh, yes. The lipid profile study.
Yeah. They tracked middle-aged adults, people between the ages of 40 and 70, and they found that the positive thinkers actually had higher levels of HDL, the good cholesterol, compared to their LDL, the bad cholesterol.
And this is where we have to pause and ask about the actual mechanism at play. Because it sounds like magic.
Wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second. Are these people actually healthier because they have an optimistic mindset? Or are they just optimistic because they won the genetic lottery and already feel physically great?
That's a great point.
It feels a bit like a chicken and egg scenario,
It's a crucial question, and the researchers actually controlled for exactly that. The causality flows in a very specific way. First, the study reveals that optimistic people make drastically better subconscious lifestyle choices.
Subconscious choices.
Yeah. When you have a positive outlook, your brain essentially transmits a continuous signal to your body that you are a vessel worth taking care of.
Wow.
So you are statistically more likely to choose nutrient-dense foods, engage in physical activity, and manage your stress before it peaks.
So it's like this cascading effect of daily micro-habits driven by self-worth.
Exactly
But
right.
it goes even deeper than just behavioral choices.
Right.
There is a
They-
direct endocrine response happening.
There is. Optimistic brains actively stabilize the release of cortisol, which is our primary stress hormone.
Right, the fight or flight chemical.
Exactly. When your cortisol levels are stable and not constantly spiking all day, your blood pressure normalizes. Your cardiovascular system doesn't have to work in a state of constant, desperate emergency.
And then there's the finding about carotenoids, which absolutely fascinated me.
Oh, the antioxidant data.
Yeah, the sources highlight that frequent positive thinkers have higher concentrations of carotenoids circulating in their bloodstream.
What's fascinating here is how our thoughts basically manipulate our cellular environment. Carotenoids are powerful antioxidants. They are actually the pigments that make carrots orange and tomatoes red.
Right, you always hear about them in food.
Yeah, but in the human body, they actively fight off oxidative stress and slow down cellular aging.
But how does a thought like an invisible cognitive process trigger the presence of a physical antioxidant? I don't get it.
It comes back to that stress response we were just talking about. When you are pessimistic, your brain's hypothalamus signals your pituitary gland to flood your system with stress hormones.
Okay.
So your immune system has to divert all its energy to dealing with this perceived systemic inflammation. But when you cultivate a positive mindset, your hypothalamus dials back the alarm.
Oh, so it stops fighting a threat that isn't there.
Exactly. You create a biological environment of safety. Because your immune system isn't fighting phantom fires, your body can efficiently process and secrete these antioxidants.
That is just incredible.
You are literally fighting off physical decay by changing your perspective.
Okay. And we can see the exact opposite mechanism destroying the body when we look at the data on negative thinking. There is a study from 1990 in our stack that links chronic negative thinking to 15 distinct physical ailments.
15, yeah.
We are talking about unexplained chest pain, chronic muscle tension, insomnia, digestive issues like severe bloating, profound fatigue, and even a decreased libido.
And again, we have to look at the why. The brain does not easily distinguish between a literal physical threat, like that tiger on the savannah, and a psychological threat.
Like ruminating over a humiliating meeting at work, right?
Exactly. When you engage in chronic negative thinking, your brain perceives that you are under constant literal attack.
So it initiates the fight or flight response, but you never actually fight or flee, so you're just, what, stuck in the biochemical buildup?
Stuck in biological triage. Your muscles tense up for days to prepare for a physical altercation that never happens, leading to chronic back and neck pain.
Oh, wow.
Your digestion slows down to a crawl because processing lunch is not a biological priority when the brain thinks you are in a life or death emergency.
Which explains the bloating and digestive issues.
Yes. Blood flow is diverted away from non-essential systems, which suppresses the immune system and drastically lowers libido.
You know, I like to think of chronic negative thinking like leaving a heavy, unclosed app running in the background of your smartphone.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. You might be staring at your home screen, completely unaware that this app is running, but it's secretly draining your battery. It's overheating the internal processor, and it is slowly destroying the hardware over time.
That functional analogy is perfect. You are exhausting finite biological resources on a mental projection. Over time, that chronic depletion manifests as the chest pain, the insomnia, and the fatigue.
Yeah.
Your body is simply running out of battery because your brain won't close the application.
So if our thoughts are literally rerouting our blood flow, altering our cholesterol, and determining how our cells age, what happens when we take this highly sensitive biological machine into a high-stakes environment where we don't have total control?
Like the workplace.
Exactly. Like the workplace.
But the workplace is the ultimate crucible for emotional intelligence. And the data from Gallup in 2021 provides a really stark picture of how this plays out.
Oh, yeah. The Gallup poll.
They found that employees who actively cultivate a positive mindset are 42% more satisfied with their jobs. But here is the critical metric for career progression. They are 30% more likely to be promoted.
30%. That is a massive statistical advantage. It's not just a slight edge, it's a completely different trajectory.
Definitely.
And the medical guidelines we are looking at tie this directly to EQ, or emotional quotient. They break EQ down into 5 core components: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management, and self-motivation.
Let's explore how a positive mindset interacts with those specific components because it really explains that 30% promotion bump.
Go, let's do it.
Self-awareness is the foundation, just recognizing your own emotional state. But self-management is where the optimist really shines. When a major project fails, a pessimistic employee might let their unregulated cortisol trigger a defensive outburst.
Well, they lash out at their team.
Exactly. But an optimistic employee exercises self-management. They regulate the stress response and maintain their composure.
And what about social awareness and relationship management? Because those are crucial for leadership.
Those involve looking outward. An optimistic mindset fosters empathy. Because you aren't drowning in your own stress hormones, you actually have the cognitive bandwidth to notice that your colleagues are also stressed.
That makes total sense.
You communicate clearly and constructively, which manages the relationship, rather than just adding to the collective panic of the office.
That leaves self-motivation, which I found really interesting in the sources. A positive mindset breeds what psychologists refer to as self-efficacy and resilience.
Yes.
Like, when a pessimistic person faces a professional failure, they tend to internalize it deeply. They tell themselves a story that says, I am a failure, I am fundamentally incapable of doing this.
It becomes their identity.
Right. But a positive thinker with high EQ views that exact same failure as merely a data point.
It's an external event, not an internal flaw. It is simply an experience to extract data from, pivot, and move forward.
So, what does this all mean for you, the listener, if you're just trying to survive a highly stressful office environment, or maybe dealing with a micromanaging boss? How does this actually help on a random Tuesday when the servers crash and everyone is losing their minds?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, optimism in the workplace is a highly strategic advantage. It prevents you from wasting energy on complaining.
Yeah.
When a crisis hits, the pessimist burns precious cognitive bandwidth ruminating on how unfair the situation is or assigning blame. Because your stress hormones are regulated as an optimist, your brain can actually access its higher-order creative problem-solving centers.
Wow.
You literally become the most efficient problem solver in the room because you are the only one whose vision isn't narrowed by panic.
You keep your head while everyone else is losing theirs. You aren't burning battery life on the complaint app. You're just fixing the engine.
And you become a stabilizing force for the team, which is the exact behavioral marker that leadership looks for when deciding who is ready for a promotion.
Okay, so understanding these career and health benefits is fantastic in theory. But we arrive back at our initial roadblock. Human beings are biologically wired for negativity.
Right. The tiger on the savannah.
We default to looking for the tiger. So how do we actively change our brain's default settings? How do we rewrite this ancient code?
The clinical sources actually provide several highly structured methods. It is absolutely not about looking in the mirror and just telling yourself to be happy.
Thank goodness, because that never works.
No, it requires intentional daily practice. One of the most prominent clinical frameworks we found is well-being therapy.
And the tracking data on well-being therapy is staggering. It has been proven to significantly reduce the relapse of depression over a 2 to 6 year tracking period.
It's incredible data.
It isn't a quick fix at all. It creates lasting structural changes in how the patient views the world. But how does it actually work?
It focuses on 6 specific areas of daily life: autonomy, personal growth, having a distinct purpose in life, self-acceptance, building positive relationships, and crucially, environmental mastery.
Environmental mastery. What does that look like in practice?
Environmental mastery means you stop viewing yourself as a passive victim of your surroundings.
Okay.
You actively shape your environment to support your mental health. If your workspace is chaotic and adds to your stress, mastering your environment means taking the time to organize it, set boundaries around your focus time, and intentionally design a space that fosters calm.
I love that.
It's the daily practice of asserting control over the controllable elements of your life.
That makes a lot of sense. But if you don't have access to a clinical therapist right now to guide you through that, the sources also outline things you can do on your own right now, like loving-kindness meditation.
Yes, and the protocol from the Chulalongkorn University Psychology Department outlines a very specific 9-week program for this.
9 weeks, okay.
And it's not just sitting in silence and clearing your mind. It involves dedicating just 10 to 15 minutes a day to intentionally sending good wishes and positive thoughts outward.
How does the progression work?
Yeah.
Because it builds over the 9 weeks,
Right.
right?
It does. You start with yourself. Then, over the weeks, you extend those positive thoughts to your loved ones, then to neutral acquaintances you barely know, and eventually, and this is the hardest part, you extend genuine good wishes to people you actively dislike or have deep conflict with.
Wait, sending genuine good vibes to someone who deeply wronged you? That sounds incredibly difficult, maybe even counterintuitive. Why would we do that?
It is difficult, which is exactly why it rewires the brain. The mechanism at play here is cognitive dissonance. When you force your brain to generate feelings of compassion for an enemy, it creates a conflict with your deeply held resentment.
Oh, because you can't feel both at the same time.
Exactly. The human brain cannot simultaneously hold profound, hateful anger and genuine compassion at the exact same moment. By intentionally practicing the compassion, you force the amygdala, the brain's fear and anger center, to downgrade its threat level.
You are systematically lowering your own defensive posture.
Precisely. The Chula Protocol shows that doing this measurably increases daily positive emotions like gratitude, hope, and deep satisfaction over those 9 weeks. You are building a reservoir of psychological resilience that you can draw from when a real crisis hits.
And for those who feel like they don't even have 15 minutes to spare, the sources outline micro habits too. For example, keeping a 5-minute pre-sleep gratitude journal, just writing down a couple of good things that happened that day before you close your eyes.
And that specific timing is really important. By doing it right before sleep, you are actively training the reticular activating system and the memory centers of the brain.
Right.
You are commanding your brain to start scanning your environment for positive data, rather than naturally cataloging the negative data as it prepares to consolidate memories during sleep.
There's also the simple necessity of finding 20 minutes a day to genuinely laugh, whether that's reading a comic, watching a funny video, or talking to a friend.
Laughter is essentially a physiological reset button. It instantly lowers those cortisol levels we talked about earlier, interrupting the stress cycle before it can cause physical damage.
You know, here's where it gets really interesting for me. If you look at well-being therapy, loving-kindness meditation, gratitude journaling, and laughing, what is the common denominator here?
What do you think it is?
None of these methods require financial investment. They don't require expensive tech wearables or a gym membership or a pharmaceutical prescription. They rely entirely on intentional neuroplasticity.
That is the core takeaway. The brain is not a static organ. These methods are quite literally neurological resistance training.
Like going to the gym for your mind.
Exactly. Just like lifting weights tears microfibers in the muscle to build them back stronger, these daily practices force the brain to forge new neural pathways until optimism becomes the path of least resistance. It becomes the default setting.
But, you know, to be truly well-informed, we have to look at the other side of the coin. We've heavily praised positive thinking today, but we must address the crucial warning signs provided in the mental health sources.
Definitely.
We have to talk about when positivity turns into a profound liability.
This raises an important question. When is negativity actually useful? Because it is a necessary, highly evolved part of the human experience. The clinical sources are very clear that positive thinking should never be weaponized against yourself to tolerate unacceptable behavior.
Right, the danger zone. Staying positive does not mean letting people take advantage of you. You must maintain your dignity, you must honor your personal boundaries, and you absolutely should not tolerate physical or emotional abuse under the guise of just trying to stay positive and see the good in people.
Exactly. Sometimes realistic or even slightly negative thinking is absolutely required for self-preservation. If you are making a critical business decision with high financial stakes, assessing physical risks in a dangerous environment, or trying to protect yourself from a manipulative person, you desperately need that critical, pessimistic eye to spot the flaws, the lies, and the dangers.
I like to compare negative emotions to a car's dashboard warning lights. If the check engine light comes on, you don't just smile, put a happy face sticker over it and keep driving down the highway.
Right, that would be terrible.
That is the definition of toxic positivity. The engine is still going to blow up. You have to read the warning light, acknowledge that there is a severe problem, pull the car over, and fix the engine. Negative emotions are just internal data. They're an alert system telling you that a boundary has been crossed or a fundamental need isn't being met.
Beautifully put. Positivity is the powerful engine that drives you forward and gives you momentum. But negativity is the diagnostic system that ensures you don't drive right off a cliff. True emotional intelligence is knowing how and when to use both.
So, to bring this deep dive all together for you, Positive thinking is definitely not a passive, fluffy trait. It is not just a polite way to behave in public.
No, not at all.
It is a rigorous, highly trainable skill. It is a potent combination of emotional intelligence, biological hacking, and mindfulness that fundamentally helps you navigate the complexities of life effectively.
It is the active, daily choice to shape your reality by taking control of the narrative you tell yourself. And as we've seen, that narrative directly regulates your biology, protects your cardiovascular health, and enhances your professional capabilities.
And the best part is, you now have a scientifically backed toolkit to upgrade your mindset. You don't have to wait for a Monday to start. You can start tonight with just 5 minutes of gratitude journaling before you go to sleep.
Just 5 minutes.
Write down 2 good things that happened today. Start forcing the brain to build those new neural pathways.
It is an incredibly small investment of time for a massive, measurable biological and psychological return.
But before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over. Something that wasn't explicitly spelled out in the studies, but feels like the logical next frontier of this science.
Okay, wait on us.
We firmly established today that our brains are constantly shaping our physical reality, down to our cholesterol ratios and the rate of our cellular aging, all based on the stories we tell ourselves.
Right.
So what happens if we start telling our brains a radically positive story about our own inevitable aging process?
Oh, wow.
If we truly deeply believe that our bodies will remain strong, vibrant, and capable as the decades pass, could radical optimism actually rewrite our genetic destiny on a cellular level, far beyond just the release of a few antioxidants? If a positive mindset can cure the dashboard warning lights, what happens when we convince the biological car
Yeah.
that it is brand new?
That is a profound question to end on. How much of our biological destiny is rigidly written in our DNA, and how much is actively being written by our daily thoughts?
Something to think about the next time you find yourself ruminating on a bad day. Until next time, keep diving deep.